Hello, blessings and good morning to you. Thank you for clicking on this video. I am recording on April 14th, 2025. It is around 4:22 a.m. in the morning and I'm in my laundry room. And this is one of those videos that I call early morning thoughts. This is one of those videos where I come as far as my laundry room because that's away from everybody that is sleeping. My room where I do a lot of my recordings, my room that I call my serenity room or my zen den, my writing space, my creative space, my recording space is above our bedroom. So my husband's sleeping below and it's right there in between all the kids' rooms. So that is not the best place for recording unless I want to record in a whisper. So I decided I don't want to record in a whisper. So the furthest room away from disturbing the early morning sleepers is in my laundry room. So I am in my laundry room on a Monday, April 14th, 2025. And this is what I call an early morning thoughts video. I am Letitia. If you are stumbling on me for the first time, let me just give you a little short bio about myself and the purpose of my channel. I am Letitia. I'm a 42-year-old millennial mom of 5. I am a homeschooling, home managing mom, meaning that I teach my kids instead of sending them to school. I teach them at home, or I make sure that they get educated at home. I home manage, not home. No, I'm not a homemaker. I'm a home manager, meaning that I make sure, that things get done in the house. That we all do our part to live in harmony and do whatever we need to do to be comfortable, to be safe, to be healthy, to live good lives. To do the things we need to do to live, right? My husband he cooks more than me. He cooks uh 96% of the time, and I probably would contribute to kitchen stuff like 2% of the time every year. I do things here or there once in a while, but my daughter does the baking and she does desserts and she loves to bake. That's her pleasure. And my husband does most of the cooking, and I do things in the kitchen very rarely. It's just not my thing. It's not that I can't, it's just that I don't. I contribute in other ways. So I'm not really a homemaking mom, but I'm a nurturer. I am an INFJ empath, and that is a tool that enables me to be a very intuitive mom, So I'm able to help children to learn how to manage their emotions, and I advise them and I teach them how to manage their thoughts and their feelings and how to live with one another. That is one of my greatest strengths as a mom. I am an idealist, like I said, an intuitive. I am progressive in my perspective on life. I believe myself to be a new earth messenger and leader. New earth just meaning the vision of a better tomorrow and a brighter tomorrow than the fascist vision that these dictators and these cruel male leaders that are in control and in power, and these billionaires and these wealthy people and corporations and all the people of power right now, that vision, it is the opposite of that vision. It is envisioning a world that is more healed, more creative, more in the realm of co-creation, and believing that our connection to God, our spirituality it comes from within. It's not an external thing. It's not, God isn't a some sort of like old bearded, wise-looking guy in the sky, and heaven isn't in the sky place, and it is more of a deeper understanding and connection of how we are connected to one another, how we are connected to the universe, how we are connected to the planet, how we're all interwoven and connected to each other, and how we need to learn to work in harmony and balance and love with each other as people, as humanity, and the planet, and just being caretakers of the planet, being responsible for the planet. So the New Earth vision is not like the New World Order vision, prophecy, or biblical prophecy, where the New World Order in Bible terms is just this horrible energy of control and persecuted Christians, and I don't believe in that vision. I believe that we as human beings, and I honestly, from observing what I've been observing for the last 10 years, when I really started to pay attention, I started to pay attention because of that guy, because of him winning the election and everything that has happened since then. Him winning the election the first time is when I started to pay attention to things outside of my own bubble, because I realized, like, what the hell? I realized that my understanding of humans and people were maybe a little bit too idealistic, or maybe I expected better of human beings, because I felt with my discerning spirit that he didn't seem like a good leader, and he didn't seem like a good guy, and it didn't seem like the energy that he was creating, and the way how he would speak about things and speak about people, and just what the little I knew of him, it didn't seem like a smart thing to do. And so it was a shocking occurrence, and it was very shocking to me to come to realize that the people that I was going to church with, a lot of those people, because I at the time was going to, for the first time, going to a predominantly white church, white Americans church, and the and I it was my first time really experiencing being, I was living in the suburbs, and I was, my first time experience going to church that was a predominantly white people church, and I started to realize, I started to learn that white religion, white Christianity, and white American Christianity, and Black American Christianity did not look exactly the same. And yeah, sorry, I am accompanied by a mouse right now. I'm seeing a mouse, a big one too, in the basement. So there's gonna be mice. Not a lot, but there's mice. Yeah, what was I saying? The mouse isn't even moving, just watching, maybe waiting for me to stop paying attention, so she or he could go about his business. Mouse is probably wondering, like, what the heck is she doing down here at this time of the morning? Anyway, I realized that white Christianity and Black Christianity did not look the same. I didn't understand. I didn't understand why anybody that called themselves Christian would be able to look at that guy and see good leadership, see good person, and see someone more godly than someone opposite to him, and so just to see anything near godly, I always thought, in my opinion, I've come to realize that I've come to learn that politics and religion, they are the perspective that people have are shaped by many, many, many things. And they're not disconnected from each other, one. They're not separate from each other. And your religious perspective and your spiritual perspective on political leaders and political parties are shaped not just by biblical principles, not just by biblical beliefs, but like history, like a whole bunch of history that comes with it, like the and an experience. Okay, most finally figured out how to get out of the room, I guess. Okay, it's so freaky. Big mouse. What was I saying? It comes with history and experience and what your parents pass on to you and what you were taught, and like what you were taught from a kid, and how it just, your perspective was shaped by a whole bunch of stuff. So like when you look at a person like Hillary Clinton, or when you look at a person like Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, that person, you don't just see the person for who they are. You don't just see a person. You see a whole heck of a lot of history in that person, a whole heck of a lot of I'm trying to find the right language, but a lot is attached to that person. A lot of weight is attached to that person. And you see more than just the human being that they are and their story, but you're seeing the whole Democratic Party story, or you're seeing the whole history of the Democrats and the history of the Republican story, and what they were to you, and what was passed on to you, and what you've learned about that history, what you've learned about that history. And then if you are a Christian or a religious person, then you're also adding your religious understanding and what you've learned and come to understand from religion attached to that. So there's a whole heck of a lot of history that, and a lot of passing on, a whole heck of a lot of what has been taught to you and passed on to you from other people's experiences that have played a role in the decisions that people made, politically. So anyway, I hope that made sense, what I was trying to say right there. But anyway, I've come to learn and understand a lot through my experience over the last 10 years, my experience and my observations. And when I came into this moment, when I started to pay attention to this moment, I did not have the history, and I did not have the understanding of who the Democrats were the whole time, the history of the Democrats and the history of the Republicans. I did not have parents to pass on any experiences with the Republican Party or with the Democratic Party to me. I just had a blank slate. I came from the Caribbean. All I could see is a good person, a bad person, a good language, and a good way of saying something, and a really bad way of saying something. And I honestly felt that without even paying attention to politics, because at the time I wasn't paying attention to politics. I just truly just thought it was a given. This man sounded like an idiot. This man sounded like a faker, a fraud, just for the little bit that I was listening to, the little bit that I was hearing. Right? He didn't sound genuine. He didn't sound like a good leader. He didn't sound like he was going to do good things for the country. And I just felt like it was a given. And I was actually very, very surprised that they chose this ignorant, divisive, stupid person over better leadership, over something different, over something different. Something completely different to that. And it's only from now starting to really, that's why I'm on a quest of learning and understanding, because I realize that I cannot have my understanding passed on to me from other people. I have to come to my own understanding, my own conclusion. I have to learn so that I can think for myself, so that I could understand for myself, so I could come to my own conclusion and perspective. But after everything that has happened, after watching the choices that people have made, the grown-ups, my elders, the generations before me, watching the choices that they made and not understanding the choice, I couldn't make sense of that choice. I felt like I had to learn. I had to learn more. I had to understand this. And that is how I became on the path that I am on now with my channel, this channel. It's my YouTube channel, Letitia Learns Life. I was an Instagrammer for, about 4 years, doing pretty much the same thing, like sharing my thoughts and my spiritual downloads and my perspective and my understanding, my observation, basically doing the same thing that I'm doing now. But eventually I evolved into understanding what my purpose was and understanding how, from what language and what understanding, from what perspective I was going to share my observations and my thoughts. So this morning, my early morning thoughts, the energy of the morning was, I kind of went to bed with, not really went to bed, but with that, but like a little bit before bedtime, something was shared with me that made it even more important to figure out whether our family is safe here or not. Whether we should really, really, like, seriously, we are thinking about it really, but it is not easy because we are a family of 7 and it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy. We have to seriously make a decision, and we have to figure out what it is we need to do in terms of leaving the United States, because our family isn't in the safer. I don't think anybody's safe under the Trump America, in Trump's America, or in Trump's world, in a world in which he has the amount of power that was handed to him, by traitors and wicked people and ideological people, fake ideological people, people that believe in a version of religion and a version of God and righteousness that is not in alignment with actual love, is not in alignment with actual goodness, is in alignment with greed and corruption and classism and some people are better than other people, just because of the amount of what they have, because of certain privileges, because of where they were born and the color of their skin and the amount of money that they were born into, or the amount of money that they managed to grasp for themselves through the course of their lives, that they are more value because of that, as opposed to because of the kindness or the goodness of a person. I feel like, to me, the most valuable, precious people are the most loving, kind, good people that add to the world instead of taking away, that generously give instead of trying to steal, that takes their fair share, receives their fair share, and allows other people to receive their fair share of the resources and what this planet has to offer and provide, that aren't greedy. Those, to me, are the people that are precious and more valued. And the measure of those people is to me worth a whole heck of a lot more than people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump that just take, and they're so greedy and so corrupt and so, they're thieves. To me, they don't have that value, you know, that, their value and their worth is so very little, because they seem like the smallest men, the smallest humans in the world to me. And I just think that the mindset of the world has to change. The mindset and the way how we see value and the way how we see worth has to change, you know? So my whole thing is that my channel is a Teacher Learns Life, because I come at things with a certain perspective. And the reason that the bio is important, where I point out all these different things like the millennial, because I come to you as a millennial perspective, a 42-year-old, that matters. I come to you as a mother of 5 children, and that matters, but not just a mother of 5 children, but a homeschooling mother of 5 children, that matters. As an immigrant, that matters, because I wasn't born here. I don't have all the history and the trauma that came with the history, and the energy that was passed on generation after generation about who's good people and who's bad people, and who's a good party and who's a bad party, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have all that weight when I observe what I'm looking at. I come to you as an INFJ empath, and those things matter, because I absorb feelings and energy from other people, and I understand what I'm energy, and I'm learning how to differentiate my feelings from other people's feelings, my energy from other people's energy. And I'm also having to learn how to do that, not just with external stuff, like what I find out when I read things, or I learn about things through social media, but I have to do that in my own personal life, separating my energy, my feelings from my husband's, my real understanding. Well, where does my fear and his fear, where's the division, where's the separation, how much do I fear, how much am I feeling his fears, so I have to separate the feelings and emotions of the people that I share this household with. And as an INFJ empath, an INFJ empath is a MBTI, a Myers-Briggs type indicator, personality type. And an INFJ is an intuitive, introverted, sorry, I sometimes don't get those in the right order, introverted, intuitive, feeling, judging personality, right? And being an INFJ is also a very key element. And again, my perspective. And the whole purpose of my channel for me is to share directly from my perspective, because I want to be an example of what it's like to navigate your life and make choices based on your perspective, who you are. And my whole point for everything that I was saying about the church and about, or trying to say, about my observations in relation to, experiencing a white church and white Christianity being different to black Christianity. My whole point was to say that I realized that different perspectives come from a whole bunch of a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff plays in to the perspectives people have. And I think that what people need to learn to understand is how to differentiate their perspective from other people's perspectives, how to differentiate what their role is in the world to other people's roles, how to make decisions for yourself, think for yourself, and also to understand what goes behind the way you think. I think that the future is going to require a more advanced human being, where a more evolved human being, where you have to really be strengthening your discern, as I always say, strength, be in tune with your intuition, which everybody has, to hear that inner voice, to be in tune with your own feelings and your own opinions and your own, and you have to realize how a lot of things are designed to manipulate and designed to evoke responses and actions and feelings. You know, you remember they show The Mentalist, and how the mentalist used to come off as psychic, but he wasn't a psychic. He was just somebody that understood how the brain works, understood how certain things would cause certain responses and certain behaviors, and he could predict people based on certain elements of certain things that took place, or certain things that you understand about just basically how the brain works. You know, the brain can be hacked. The brain can be hacked. And that's why in this era, in this period, and I'm sorry that we kind of like didn't find out soon enough, that we should have been better prepared for this, a moment such as this era of transitioning to a more technologically advanced world, a world where you can be very much tricked. You know, if you do not know what you're looking at, if you do not know, if you don't understand where your information is coming from, you could be tricked. I mean, the headlines that come to your phone, and the thing is that you can't get away from it. Like, I got a cell phone, and the headlines come straight to my phone because of the certain apps and because of what is already pre-built into my phone. You know, now you get in TVs, smart TVs, where the apps and certain things that they want you to use is convenient, is pre-built into the stuff. So it's like you, to do something, to not use their stuff and to use something a little like to use apps that are like lesser known apps, or by, you know, not the big corporations and not the big producers of product, right, would be a little bit harder to do. It's harder to use a lesser known search engine than it is to use Google, which like literally is just connected to my phone. It's just built into my phone, you know. It's harder to go use other apps that are like YouTube. I don't even know what they are, but other places that are like YouTube that also does video sharing and that kind of stuff, than YouTube, that is already connected to my smart TVs and are already again built in to my phone. So to be an engaged human being, to be an advanced human being, to really pay attention and to really make intentional choices, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But at the same time, I'm so concerned. I'm like, is the future of my world, the world that I live in, and the future of my family and my being and my existence, are we going to be, am I at the mercy of the laziest, most ignorant, most easily manipulated sheep human beings, you know, on the planet? Like, I that is a scary thought. It is a scary thought. And the thing is that they're not the majority. A lot of us are very smart. A lot of us still have a lot of emotional intelligence and discernment, and we know the difference between right and wrong. And even though we might not have all the details and the knowledge of everything, and we might not understand everything, we know the obvious things, the difference between right and wrong. We are the majority, and yet still our world has fallen into fascism and fallen into all of what is happening because of the most intelligent, most unintelligent, easily manipulated, easily, you know, anyway, fooled people among us, which is not the majority. And that concerns me. I feel sad about it. Because here I am now, getting back to the main point for this whole thing, is here I am now trying to think about leaving, because my options I our family is not going to be safe here, and we don't know to what level of how bad things could get. I watch the documentaries of the 1930s with Hitler, the World War II period, and it got really bad. It could get really bad. It could get and they're testing it. They're testing it. They're at the beginning stages of all these things, all of it, repeating itself. And I'm gonna close this video. This is an early morning thoughts video. I'm gonna close this video by saying, like for me, what is very difficult as an, let's just do the little bio real quick, as an infj empath, as an intuitive, what is very difficult for me is I do not feel fear, and for me personally, I would like to risk it a little because I want to test my faith, but it's easier for you to risk it with your one self than it is for you to risk it with your whole family, with your entire family, and that includes 5 children. I want to test that faith. I want to test my light working powers. I want to see if it's possible for us, the anchors of the light workers, the people that is not subscribing to that world, the holders of the light and the holders of the vision for the future, if we could do it, if we could somehow reach out, be in this working assistance in bringing about people and awaken people and bringing about change. But this is a whole different ball game when it's like kids and an entire family, so the whole thing is like, I just can't believe, for lack of a better way to say it, it astounds me that we are where we are. It astounds me that we're really going to do this. I cannot believe that we're going to do this, that people are going to do this, and that there's so much cruelty and so much corruption and so much ignorance and so much stupidity. And even though all of that ugliness is not the majority, yet still, we, the majority, cannot seem to push them back far enough and hard enough. We can't seem to push them down far enough away and hard enough. And I'm trying to be patient and hopeful. And my husband said, you got to realize that at some point it's going to be too late. And I don't know when it's too late. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That's the truth. Because for me, I'm teetering between that spirituality and that faith and that belief that people are waking up and that change is coming and the newer vision will come to fruition sooner than later. But reality is they're doing all the bad stuff. And will we get caught up in the whirlwind of all that bad stuff? Because our family is not safe. So we got to make a decision. Thank you for listening. Blessings and good morning to you, or whatever time of the day you are watching this video. I am recording on April 14th, 2025, and this is a part 2 to an early morning thoughts video that I did. I did a recording in the basement around the 4 a.m. hour, and now it's the 5 a.m. hour. And honestly, I just wanted to share a little bit of some thoughts that I forgot to mention and just share a little bit about what the energy is like this morning. So, as I've explained in videos before from, but you may be stumbling on me for the first time. So I kind of repeat myself. As I explained in videos before, for me, I am a person that lives in the flow. One, I don't have like a specific morning routine. Every morning is different. There's certain kinds of vibes that different mornings would have. Like some mornings I would feel light as a feather and the energy would be good and I'll be in a good vibes in good vibes energy, and then there are times where you feel the heaviness of the moment because things have happened, more bad stuff has been added to the things that have happened based on the energy that is being created in the times that we are in under the leadership and the attempted control and the dark forces that are trying to basically destroy and control and steal and do all the bad stuff. Do all the bad stuff. And we're experiencing the history repeating itself, which is mind blowing to me that even after we have learned about history and been educated on certain things, we still kind of ended up in this kind of under this kind of circumstances anyway. But we're witnessing history repeat itself and energies repeat itself and the rise of darkness once again, and in in a big way, because there's always the balance between dark and light, right? But we have come to the point where darkness had there's a imbalance of dark and light, and dark is trying to just overwhelm and control and devour everything of the light, everything that is beautiful, to steal and to take and destroy. And it's just the it's just getting worse and worse and worse on from that end. And for me in my life, if I don't focus on it, my life it feels covered. I feel covered and protected and safe and provided for, and I feel like. So one of the things that I woke up this morning, I read well, one Substack this morning, and one of the things that I woke up this morning to find out happened while I was sleeping over, last night, is that the governor, somebody like set of ablaze. The Substack that I read used the word firebombing, like set ablaze the governor, the Democratic governor, his home in Pennsylvania, and the governor Josh Shapiro's home in Pennsylvania. I just read one Substack and I just look it up on Google to see what the top story headlines saying. I didn't read any articles, but the top story headlines according to Google from various sources is Governor Josh Shapiro and family evacuated after arson at Pennsylvania residence. A man has been arrested for allegedly setting fire to the Pennsylvania governor's. That headline cut off. Man arrested after fire started at mansion of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Trump ignores Shapiro and hate posts 60 Minutes instead. That's a Daily Beast headline. Police investigating arson after Pennsylvania governor's residence fire. And Fox News got Pennsylvania police arrest suspect after governor's mansion set on fire while governor. Dang it, we'll have to click it to see what the rest of that headline is. All right. So let me see. Yeah, I'm choosing not to click that to find out what the rest of the headline is, especially because it's Fox News. I don't want to mislead my algorithm or anything like that, so I would just prefer not to click that. The whole thing is that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's Josh Shapiro forced to flee with, this is Sky News, with family as home set ablaze. So, you know, here we are. All right, so today is April 14th, 2025, in case I didn't mention it. Here we are. This is where we are now. This is where we are now. It is totally, completely history repeating itself in every single way. Everything that has happened before is happening again. The energies of all that stuff that's happened before is happening again. But what I'm hoping is that this time a lot more people will be awake and enlightened and educated and brave and courageous. And I honestly truly do not think that we can do this without being connected to our spiritual self. It doesn't have to be religion. I just don't think that if we're not connected to our intuition and if we're not connected to our inner soul, our inner guide that will lead us down the right path, you know, if we're not guided and directed by our spiritual guides, whether we talk to them in whatever form we talk to our spiritual guides, whether it's just what we feel as though is our intuition or you know, thoughts in our head, are trusting our gut, or actual spiritual guides using tools like tarot and dowsing rods and all the different tools that exist, and the pendulums and all the, however we connect with our spiritual guides, however we connect with the higher power, whatever we call it, by whatever name, you know, however we perceive it. I don't think that we can do this without being connected to our spiritual selves. Our spiritual selves. And that is what I'm trying very hard to do, is to be connected to my spiritual self. Because navigating this just as a human being, having to decipher the difference between our feelings and our thoughts and other people's feelings and other people's thoughts, our fears and other people's fears, having to navigate between what we fear and what we feel and what we think, and differentiate that from others and the others' fears, thoughts, and feelings. That is not an easy task to do in just our human form, in just with just our human understanding and our human perspective. We have to tap into that. We have to connect to that spiritual higher power, that intuition, that spiritual presence, you know, that is in us. That is in us and is connected to everybody else. I believe that this moment requires courage and connection and community. So I think that's all I wanted to add on. So I guess I'm going to just be adding this on to the video that I recorded in the basement and call it a day. I don't know when this is going to be posted. I just wanted to add that part on. I hope that when this is posted, I hope that we are still okay. That we're still okay, because I don't know how bad it's going to get before it gets better. I really do think it will get better the sooner that more people tap into their spiritual selves, and the more courageous people are to speak out and step out. And you know, everybody should read the On Tyranny, this book, but it's also a video that John Lithgow recorded, that gives a summary of the 20 lessons from the 20th century, you know. But we got to be brave. We got to be brave. We got to be bravery and connection and community. Courage, connection, and community. Connection to our higher selves, our inner selves, to the higher power, to the divine, to the collective, to the our spiritual guides, in whatever form we communicate and we see them, and let them be our guide. Let them be our guide. Thank you for watching.